Gun fam, what's up? It's the Gun Brother. Thank you for tuning in. And today we want to tackle this situation that happened with Airman Roger Fortson. And again, as always, what I want to do is make sure that we learn something from it. So let's get into it. As always with incidents like this, first and foremost, condolences to Airman Fortson's family, friends, anyone and everyone that this is affected by, and may he rest easy and rest in peace, Airman Fortson. Moving forward, the first thing we have to do is dump everything that you've been talking about, everything that you've seen, everything that you've heard. Just get that out of the way. A lot of it is just noise with regard to the aspect that I'm gonna talk about, okay? And I'll touch on some of the stuff, but it's for what we're trying to accomplish, it's just irrelevant. I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be said. There's definitely things that we can discuss on both sides of the fence from what happened. But I'm not court, I'm not Crump, I'm not any of that. I'm an instructor, and I want you guys to understand some things when you do certain things a certain way. The overarching aspect of this whole situation is home defense. That's it. That's what I want to talk about, okay? And I need you to, like I said, I'm gonna talk about both aspects of it. I'll touch on what I believe were some mistakes that were made briefly, but you have to understand, we all have to understand both sides. And what I mean by understand is know how to react. I am not justifying anything for anybody. I'm not saying that anybody was wrong or right, because especially on the civilian end with Airman Fortson and his response, I've seen headlines that say things like shot for exercising your 2A in your home, things like that. I'm not saying you can't go to the door with your gun. That's not what I'm saying. From the officer's perspective, everybody's saying, the stuff about being at the wrong apartment, all that stuff. That can happen to anybody. Home defense, let's talk about it. You're at home, you're doing whatever you do, and you get a bang at the door. And you have to respond some kind of way. You have a response. One or the other. You go to the door, you look through your peephole, you don't see anybody. Let's stop there. Home defense starts with surveillance of some sort. A lot of people have Ring camera now or something similar to that. That gives you an upper hand on who's at the door, actually without even going to the peephole. Okay, even when you're not home, right? But we're talking about actually being home. So you get this bang on the door and you have to respond. So the first issue is trying to discern what's going on. Because it's not a normal knock, it's an unexpected knock, and in this case, it was a violent knock. So that's your first layer. How do I figure out who's on the other side of the door? If we progress through the event, another bang at the door, another bang at the door. So now that's where background noise comes in. What kind of neighborhood do you live in? Who are you expecting? What kinds of things are you expecting? And people don't expect home invasions, and when they occur, you have to be prepared for it some kind of way. If we can't identify who's at the door, now let's stop and talk about what happened. A lot of people on one side are saying, oh, he banged on the door and got out of the view of the peephole, blah, 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 blah. People shoot through doors. That is not an unorthodox procedure to get from in front of the door. Now, the argument here, and part of what I don't understand, he was responding to a domestic, didn't hear any signs of a scuffle or ongoing situation. Didn't get a report of any weapons that I know of. So why he was being so aggressive, and like I said, that's a whole nother video. I don't know how those officers were trained or anything like that. But not hearing anything, and it was kind of weird. Other side of the door, bang, 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 bang. The sheriff, he identified himself as sheriff's office. So if you're inside the home, you hear sheriff's office, but you don't see anything. You have a choice to make at that moment. What are you going to do? Are you going to engage? Because if you open the door and you think it's a threat, you're engaging that threat. If you open the door and you think it's a sheriff's office, you're engaging the sheriff's office. So you have to make a decision and then proceed tactically for whatever that decision is. Okay? What I mean by tactically is have a tactic for the decision. Everybody takes the word tactical and thinks it has to be this whole, all it means is a tactic, a way to do things. How are you going to engage? What is the tactic that you're going to use? All right, so we're still here. Door hasn't opened. People on either side of the door. Sheriff's office, but we don't have a visual. You have a decision to make here. You think those are robbers on the other side of the door? Make that call. Right now, you're safe. They haven't come in the door. They haven't kicked in the door. They haven't done anything. Make the call to 911. And if you are armed for a home defense, you should have a home defense plan to execute at that moment. All right, so make the call and then communicate. If you're going to communicate, especially after they announce that it's sheriff's office or any other law enforcement entity. At this moment, with the back and forth, avoiding the peephole, stuff like that, we got noise on both sides, okay? Fortune, for whatever reason, believed that he could be being robbed or be about to be the victim of a home invasion. I don't know what his background noise is. I don't know what his life was like. I don't know if he had any run-ins with somebody or something like that, or if he just lived in a bad neighborhood that had been getting burglarized. He could have any reason he wants to think that he needs to arm himself to protect himself. I am not faulting him for that at all. Everybody should be mindful enough to be ready to protect themselves. Other side of the fence, again, with the call that he was responding to, I think the tactics that he was using to get into the house or get the attention of whomever was in the house, I think they were a little strange. But again, a month after four other sheriff's officers lost their lives doing similar activities, trying to go to a home and do police business. So I cannot fault him for what he was doing. Again, and we're not talking about if they were at the wrong house, stuff like that. I get it. That's something else. I'm talking about this encounter. This happened whether it was the wrong house or not. It happened. So here we are, still on the other side of the fence, opposite sides of the door. I wouldn't have answered the door, and I'm gonna give you a couple of reasons why. One reason is I live in Maryland. Maryland is a castle doctrine state. Quite frankly, I need you to kick that door in. That is one of the things that I'm going to illustrate that my castle is under attack. I can exercise castle doctrine as soon as you cross that threshold. I just wouldn't even answer the door. And if it was the sheriff's office, it's a million reasons I could have not answered the door. I could not be home. I could be in the bathroom, take a shower, sleep, anything. All kinds of reasons. I'm not answering the door. So if he bang, 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 if I think it's the sheriff's office for whatever reason, I think he got the wrong apartment because there's nothing going on in my house, and I'm FaceTiming with my girl, like, I don't know what the sheriff's department banging on the door. Or I can call 911 and say, hey, it's the sheriff's department. I don't see anybody, but they're banging on my door. You need to make a call. It's a lot of things. Again, I'm giving you this stuff for tools to use ahead of time. In the moment, hard to think of this stuff. You have to understand these things ahead of time. So, or I can communicate. That is a form of engagement. If you're saying sheriff's office, but I cannot see you. Okay? Sheriff's office. What do you want? Open the door. Why do you want me to open it? To communicate. I can't see you. Put your badge in the peephole. Something. So start that dialogue. Start a communication if you want to. Again, I'm sure the officer was on edge because of what happened a few weeks ago, or a few weeks prior, and he was acting the way he was acting. because he doesn't want to get shot. He wants to go home too. So we're still on opposite sides of the door, and then let's talk about the media. Reports were saying they burst into the apartment. That never happened. So you have to be careful of what you're reading, what you're thinking about the situation. They didn't burst in the apartment. Fortson opened the door. So he chose to engage. Now, quite frankly, I can't say this any other way. Going to the door, like I said, you think it's one of two things. Either you heard him and you think it's a sheriff's office, or you didn't hear him and you legit think that you were about to be the victim of a home invasion. Number two, you shouldn't even open the door. If you think it's about to be a victim of a home invasion, don't open the door. They come through, castle doctrine. Do what you got to do. In either case, I would not walk to a door and open it with a gun in my hand visibly. I am not saying I would not go to the door with my gun. Two different things. The posture that he was in, and I'll show it to you, the posture that he was in was, in my estimation, not the proper response for anything, for either thought of what was on the other side of that door. So in other words, if you thought they were robbers, you're not ready to use that firearm if you open the door to them. If you thought it was the sheriff's department, again, in my estimation, I wouldn't go to the door with a gun in my hand, period. I don't care how unpopular of an opinion that is, but that is not the tactic that I would ever use to respond to law enforcement. To come to the door like that with the gun in your hand, it's television. That's what that is. That's the movies, whether it's the good guy, the bad guy, thinks it's a threat on the other side of the door and is relieved that it's not. Oh man, good thing it wasn't. Oh man, you don't even know what I was about to do. That's television. I wouldn't advise that response in any situation, to just walk to the door with your gun in your hand like that as your just in case. I mean, you're on your own property, you can do what you want, but I wouldn't advise it. On the officer side, I've seen this headline. I'm responding to headlines and just, again, put food for thought. Think about how you would do these things. Holding a gun in your hand does not constitute deadly force. It doesn't. Someone holding a gun in their hand does not mean you can automatically use deadly force. The problem with that is you have to understand the training. Him holding the gun in his hand was not the totality of the circumstances. The totality of the circumstances is I'm responding to a domestic. There may have been some violence involved. He opens the door and I see a gun in his hand. That is the totality of the circumstances, and I can promise you that there are other reasonable officers that would have reacted the same way, and there are other reasonable officers that would not have reacted the same way. The problem with use of force is the totality of circumstances, and it's based on the perception of the officer on the scene at that time. The way that people are taking this screenshot and then circling all of this stuff that the officer was supposed to notice. They are actually freezing a moment in time and making like a 10-minute video about all this stuff that the officer should have noticed in a half a second. That's what people are doing. Now, if you think that that's fair to anybody, it's not. That's not creative. You're not awesome because you recognize all this stuff from the comfort of your laptop as you oh, look at that, his hand's up, as if to say don't shoot. It's not how it works, man. That is the most stressful, I can't even describe what that situation feels like. And most of these people that are judging have never, could never, and would never. The judgments that are coming from people that have never even had use of force training, force on force training, and I don't even know what the percentage is, but I know it's very high. I know it's in the high 90s of the percentage of people that have never and will never be in a deadly force situation. That is where all this judgment is coming from on the officer. Now, again, I am not defending the officer. I am saying you have to understand both sides. You don't even have to. I'm saying you should. If you don't want to, that's on you. And if you listen to the video, that officer drew. He didn't have his gun out. He wasn't responding with his gun on the door or anything like that. You can hear the gun come out of the holster. That officer reacted to seeing the gun. Again, whether you agree with the reaction or not, what I'm saying is that is what happened. So a lot of people are arguing, say, I can come to the door any kind of way I want. If you want to put your life, the responsibility of your life in someone else's perception, yes, you do have the right to do that, okay? Somebody else perceived, that's what he perceived, and whether it's right or wrong, unfortunately, Airman Fortson is not here anymore because of it. So this is not about BLM, this is not about whatever views you may have or you think that the officer has or the officers of Okaloosa, whatever it is. It's not what it's about. It's about officers were responding, and then the individual chose to respond to the officers and how you can manage that interaction. And so, yes, I would never respond to law enforcement with a gun in my hand. And if I was responding to robbers, I wouldn't have opened the door. So I want you, from a home defense perspective, because a lot of you are very new to this. A lot of people have bought guns for home defense, and I think that you should use these situations to understand what you can do to defend your home successfully, and what considerations you should make when engaged in the situation. So tell me what you guys think in the comments. But that's my rundown of it. Make a home defense plan ahead of time. Understand what you would do. Put things in place to help you. If you don't have a Ring camera or something of that sort, you should. Home invasions have been perpetrated by people dressed as delivery men, people dressed as service people, people probably in security uniforms. Home invasions can come in any way, shape, or form. So being ready with at least being able to identify who's on the other side of the door without opening the door, that is a huge help. Step number one. Step number two, make a plan. How do you plan on communicating with the person on the other side of the door? And then in the event of an invasion, how do you plan on defending yourself? So you think about that. You do what's best for you and your family. And the Gun Brothers out. I will talk to you guys. Protect yourselves, because nobody else is going to do it.